You've reached the Char Hotline, your pep talk turned podcast. It's your direct line to unshakable confidence, unapologetic self-love, and the permission slip you didn't know you needed to show up as your true self. This is your safe space for a whole lot of heart, honesty, humor, and healing. I'm your host, Char, a self-love and confidence coach, your compassionately candid hype woman, and a woman of color on a mission to help you ditch the BS, cultural conditioning, your own self-doubt, or what society or your family says you should be. Together, we'll figure out what it means to embrace your true self, get out of your own way, set boundaries, and live a fulfilling life on your terms. Whether you're a recovering perfectionist, overcoming people-pleasing, here for the listeners' questions, or getting some actual tools, join me to feel seen, heard, and empowered. Tune on in and learn to love yourself first, always. No, I don't want to meet you nowhere, no. I don't want none of your time, and no, I don't want no scrubs. Welcome back to the Char Hotline. And today's episode, I'm going to talk about boundaries. I'm pretty proud and confident that I like to call myself a boundaries badass. Wasn't always like this. It definitely has been a process and quite the journey to get to here. And this really builds off of the last episode about overcoming and breaking free from perfectionism and people pleasing. I could talk all day long about boundaries. When it comes to boundaries, we think about personal, but I've worked with clients where it really applies with their work and saying no to, when sometimes there's like work functions or work events, or even if it's just social work things, it's setting a boundary and not feeling like you have to go for those drinks after the event if you really don't need to, or if you really don't want to. So there are definitely boundaries, or like even just like boundaries of I need to get off work at a certain time because I got other commitments, or just self-care time, or I need to go work out, whatever it is. I think there are definitely boundaries in all aspects of our lives, personally and professionally. I want to set the tone, if you haven't already heard this, is that boundaries are not selfish. They are self-care. They are this huge milestone and act and statement of self-love and self-respect and self-worth. And I think boundaries, a buzzy word lately too, and has a bit of a bad rap, I feel like, because some people might view that boundaries are so aggressive and they're like walls and they are spiteful and mean or rude and shut people out. I envision it not as walls, but more like bridges. Bridges to more conscious, deeper connections. And it's like this invisible manual or guideline or policy to show and tell people how to treat you, how to interact with you, how to connect with you. As simple as maybe even think of like introverts versus extroverts. What seems like a big surprise birthday party for an extrovert is amazing and great and so thoughtful and meaningful, but a big party for someone who's introverted would be miserable and a nightmare. And so it's just meeting people where they're at and understanding how people want to be treated. So I see boundaries as bridges instead of walls. I really like that visualization of thinking of boundaries as bridges instead of walls, and they don't have to be rigid. You can be fluid. You can change your mind. You can have a conversation and co-create boundaries with someone too, or understand where someone else is at, get curious, or explain what your thought process is for someone else too. And we can also set them with love and kindness and compassion. I think how we communicate a boundary is very important too. And again, not everyone deserves this compassionate communication, but generally I feel like it could be possible to do that. And it's, my partner and I learned this in couples counseling. It's how to file a complaint. Focus on I. I feel this way when this happens. Not you did this and you made me feel like this, and you just focusing on I. My feelings are mine. I'm entitled to them. So explaining a boundary to someone, and I call them disclaimers, walking someone through my thought process of what I perceive and what my experience is and my perspective. I think that really helps someone to understand, not just like, I don't want to see you, that's it, you suck. But it's, I don't want to see you right now because I'm going through this and this is how I feel. I think that's really helped. And sometimes flip the script on the disclaimer and the thought process is, that's how I get curious, which is a huge thing I'm working on, is to try to get more curious and understand where people are coming from. Ask people, like, tell me more. Well, what's your thought process? Help me understand that. Or I'm curious about this. Can you tell me more about it? Can you explain that more? Can you elaborate? So yeah, I think boundaries are very important and they matter because if you don't get clear on what's important and what's not important to you, and then you don't set these boundaries, then you're not telling people how to treat you and how to interact with you and how to respect you, show you respect. And you can also ask people, invite people to understand them to also then reciprocate that respect and that kindness and understanding and compassion. I think for me, without the boundaries, you may pent up a lot of resentment. You may get angry. You might feel burnout and stressed and overwhelmed. And I think being able to communicate those boundaries are healthy. Setting boundaries is a practice to protect your peace, and it really helps boost your confidence. The more and more we practice to set those boundaries, to say no without the shame or guilt, you get confident in trusting your gut and making decisions aligned with your values, aligned with where you are energetically. An example would be around the holidays. There are a lot of gatherings, a lot of things that can be triggering, a lot of things that could cause anxiety. My partner and I have this tradition that a blessing in disguise, we actually got COVID one Christmas with our little one when our firstborn was 2 years old. And we had to be quarantined, and just the three of us, we spent Christmas. And so we ended up ordering burgers, fries, and milkshake delivered to our house. And we just spent Christmas in our pajamas all day. And since then, that's been our thing. We don't see anyone. We used to do this marathon where we would drive to visit this family member and that family, and we're just running this marathon all day, and at the end of the Christmas day, we're tired and exhausted, and we felt like we didn't get to enjoy the Christmas day, and neither of us like cooking, and so we don't really want to cook a big feast either. And even though picture perfect media, movies, I don't know, make this whole big lavish feast, for us, that's our boundaries. At Christmas Day, no one comes over to our house. We don't leave our house. We don't see anyone, and maybe go out for a family walk or something. But we stay in our pajamas, our kids play with presents, just watch Christmas movies, eat treats, order delivery, and eat burgers, french fries, and milkshakes. And it's not a big turkey dinner or anything. And, we spread out. We're very mindful of our energy as a family and our little ones because they're a little more chill. And my partner definitely is very chill and more of an introvert sometimes. And so, we spread out the family gatherings and holiday things before the actual Christmas day, and the actual Christmas day we do our own thing. And this little sweet tradition we've started for ourselves, and that's a boundary we have. People have their own thoughts and opinions, and they're entitled to that. That's fine. But not letting that affect me, not letting that affect us, and not feel guilt or shame with whatever we decide to do that honors our values and our energy. I want to touch on the common struggles around setting boundaries and maintaining them is definitely the shame and guilt that's associated with it, so that for me, with practice over time, I feel better. But really just getting clear on my values has really helped, and then trusting myself and then making decisions aligned to those values really makes me feel good to not have it with shame and guilt. And you may have heard this before, and this really stuck with me, is that people who don't respect and honor boundaries, it says more about that person than the person setting the boundary. So just because someone doesn't agree with me, and they don't have to agree with me, but they should still respect my boundary, it says more about them than it does about me. Often it's just people projecting their own insecurities and their own unresolved shit, and you aren't responsible for how others feel. You can try to come with compassion and kindness, but you ultimately aren't responsible for how people feel. They're entitled to their own feelings, and that's a choice they make. And another common struggle with setting boundaries is the fear of rejection. If I don't go to this thing and set this boundary for myself, then these people are going to be mad. These people are going to talk about me. These people are going to judge me. Sometimes it's not even real. We just think these things and make these narratives up in our head and these stories in our head. These people who you fear reject you or judge you, they're not living your life. So if you're going to go to this, not set a healthy boundary and be a people pleaser and do something that doesn't honor your value, you're going to come back overextended and resentful and ultimately squashing your own joy. So an example being, you make plans with a friend. This actually happened to me in real life. My friend and I made plans, and then towards the end we did an energy check. I was like, hey, where are you at? Do you still feel up for this? And they're like, no, actually something's come up. And I'm just really feeling just a me day or a me time. And I was like, okay, cool. Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to support you? Whereas I think if we didn't have this rapport and this trusting, secure friendship and relationship built, it'd be like, they're bailing on me again. They don't even want to be around me, or they don't want to hang out with me. But we're both secure enough and trusting and self-aware that we can have that honest conversation. You don't want someone who's burnt out and tired from the week to hang out with you anyway. They're not going to be the best company. Sometimes we just want to be together and vent, yes. But, I think having that trusting relationship and setting that boundary and doing that check within ourselves and then with each other ultimately was so healthy for us. And I would say maybe an old version of me would have been like, they're bailing again. But now I'm like, no, what do you need? Good for you. Like, I want to celebrate that. Good for you for tuning into yourself and making that decision. I'll see you when I see you, or I'll see you next time. Our friendship doesn't change. We still love and trust each other. It's just they needed some time, and that's fine. Okay, so let's go into 3 tools to practice setting and maintaining boundaries without guilt or shame. The first one is getting really clear on what your values and needs are. Where do you feel your energy drained? Where do you feel overextended? Where do you feel that you get re-energized, you get energy, and you feel more joyful and light? Try to get really clear what you like to do, what you don't like to do. And that can change too, and you can change your mind too. But I think getting really clear on your needs and values will then help you make decisions aligned to those needs and values. But first, you need to get clear on those needs and values. Second is communicate. Practice communicating boundaries with love and confidence. So what I said earlier, focus on I. I feel this way. I want to do this. I, not you or external factors. Just focus on I and what you need and what your current needs are right now and how you can be best supported. I think either writing these down and or also practicing them in your head, so then when it comes up, you already have practiced them and you say them. You don't have to think of them on the spot. You already have them pre-scripted and you've practiced them. And just practice that. And again, maybe sometimes take time, I'll get back to you. And then maybe come I actually can't do this. Or I need more time, or I need more space right now. Whatever it is, I think practicing. The third tool is learn to say no with grace. Again, whenever you say no, focus on whatever you're saying no to, what are you saying yes to? And don't need to come with excuses or lies or over-explaining. And if you want to say it with grace and compassion, goes, thank you for the invitation. I can't make it this time. Or thank you for thinking of me. That's not something I can take on right now. I think there definitely is a way of communicating with grace to honor yourself and still show up with kindness and compassion and grace. So to wrap it up, boundaries. I think this could be multiple episodes. And I'd love to hear from you if you have more thoughts or questions around boundaries, how to set boundaries without shame and guilt, and how to maintain boundaries. I definitely think boundaries, it's a way of, the marketing side of me, know, like, and trust. That's, when you have a product or a brand, you get to know it, like it, and then you trust it to buy or purchase and consume. It's almost, we got to turn that back and flip that around to ourselves. We got to really know what our needs and values are, get clear, like ourselves, that we know we want to honor those values, and then trust ourselves to make decisions aligned to those needs and values. I think that's huge for me, and boundaries is the ultimate act of self-love and really showing people how you want to be treated and interacted with and how to respect you. And if you speak to yourself kindly and with compassion and respect yourself, i.e. how you respect yourself, and a huge example being how you set and maintain boundaries, shows respect for yourself. And then people will see that and either normalize that, model that for themselves, and also hopefully learn how to respect you and respect your boundaries. So I want to invite you, the listener, to reflect on one area of your life, how to get clear on your needs and values and where you might need to set some boundaries. So I want to encourage you to also submit your questions or anything that's going on in your life that you want some advice on to the Dear Char segment. I'd love to hear your thoughts and what's resonating with you and any future topics or guest speakers that you might want to hear from on this podcast. Please share, like, and subscribe. Give me a 5-star rating if you want. And until next time, stay bold, stay kind, and stay in love with yourself.